Well, the bad news is the California road trip went as bad as it could possibly go. You lost both games, but the good news is you're at least still shotgun in the Big Ten race.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, shout out to those that are watching live right now on YouTube. Yes, it is 12:20 in the morning, but God, what an infuriating game. How could anyone possibly sleep after that one? Michigan State falls by 2, and they got a little bit of answers about this team. We've got some concerns that, after not just a 2-game sample size, not just a 2-game losing streak, but we're more than 20 games in the season now. We know a few things about this team. And yes, it still is a good team. I'm not going to go full doomsday over here. I'm not saying, this season's over. It's pretty clear that, there are some warts with this team, as there are with every other team in the Big Ten. Let's not get it twisted. I'm not, again, guys, we're not going to go full meltdown Matt over here. But yeah, that sucked. And just the way that game happened absolutely sucked. I know I'm stating the obvious here, but God, you know what? No, let's do some coping right out of the gate. Okay? Cope. My favorite 4-letter word right now, amongst many that I could pick. All right, guys. Michigan State just lost their second game in a row. And I know that, hey, us Michigan State fans were always like, hey, they always have a little losing streak in February, even during good seasons. And that's actually true. 3 of Michigan State's last 5 Big Ten championships, they did include a 3-game losing streak at some point in the Big Ten season. Now, that's not a prerequisite. Like, you don't have to have one. They don't need to lose against Oregon. They certainly didn't need to lose this game. But I'm just saying, there's still a lot of season left. I know that the time looks like it's ticking because it's officially February, but us Michigan State fans should be kind of used to this by now, as long as you've been following the team for 10, 15 years at this point. So with that said, I'm going to try to not get too ahead of my skis here. I'm going to try to rein it in emotionally somewhat, even though we're recording, 8 minutes after the game. But here's where I'll get the most over my skis about, and this is so cliche. It's just so sports talk show, radio personality-ish. This talking point of, hey, you know what? Who's Michigan State's guy? Yeah, they're deep. They play 10 deep. They're great. It's awesome when you're bludgeoning teams by 40 points like Nebraska, Minnesota. But hey, when you get into a close game situation, who's going to be your guy, Sparty? And I don't know. Let's kind of figure it out, right? Easy to say during your 13-game win streak. And, here's where we might get a little over our skis here, a little overreactionary. I don't think it is, but we got the answer to, we know who the go-to guy is. It's just no one. It's no one. There is not a go-to guy on this team. And again, you can still have a successful season, all right? Like, they can still win the Big Ten title. We're going to talk about more after we, go through all the dirty work of this game, but hey, I saw Jaden Akins. Missed the layup at the end. Cohen Carr mishandles the save out of bounds. And, it was impressive for Cohen to even get his hands on that out of bounds. Still turnover to the most wide-open 3 that you've seen, really not just in that game, but the whole Big Ten season, really. UCLA drills on the other end. Jeremy Fears, for the second game in a row, a Michigan State player with under 2 minutes to go in a must-score possession, just forgets about the existence of a shot clock. Like, last game when Jaden Akins did it, okay, MSU was already down 5 points. Maybe kind of a moot point, but still pretty upsetting for a senior to have that moment. And I know that, Fears is just, 34 games into his career right now. He's still a young guy. Everyone makes mistakes in life, right? How can you be the starting point guard and make that mistake with less than 2 minutes to go? Like, that is flatly inexcusable. Jackson Kohler, we have sung his praises all season. He has grown so much from last year. He is an elite rebounder, and no, we're not just saying that willy-nilly. There are some numbers that back that up. To grab the rebound and travel, I know that, wasn't his plan. I know that wasn't what he meant to do, but my man, we gotta have a little more poise than that, and that's just what Michigan State lacked. Which is so upsetting because, God, what great fight by that team. They had no reason to get back into that game. Second game in a road stand, out west. You're down damn near double-digit points with, 8 minutes to go, and they clawed their way back. All for nothing. Again, guys, like I'm not just saying this, that Michigan State has a closing problem just because I'm a sad boy right now. No, like let's just go back and look at a few other games. Like, yeah, sure, Illinois, they won that game. Well, they were also, what was it, up 7 points with 2 minutes to go, and they ended up winning that one by 2. That was a slippery game at the end there. North Carolina, hey, I remember how fun overtime was. Do you remember the end of regulation? How much urine was falling down everyone's leg at the end of regulation as they let the Tar Heels storm back to, what was it, like it felt like 8 points in the last minute? And this one, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, especially after great aggressiveness and poise and whatever other word you want to pull out there in the second half, that they shriveled. It's tough. There isn't a go-to guy. You're going to have games the rest of the season where you're going to need someone. And again, the season's not over, but oh boy, you got, 9 regular season games left. You're running out of time to find someone that can take the ball in their hands, and do something with it. So what did this road trip teach us other than never take a 2-game lead in the Big Ten for granted as you go to February? Hey, this is something that probably you guys already knew, as this was a stat that has been a thing all season, but it's finally dawned on yours truly over here that this is not a three-point shooting team. And you probably scoff at that because, yeah, they've been buried in the 300ths as far as three-point percentage goes in the nation. Once again, a stellar performance of 5 of 22 from behind the arc right now. Now, why did I hold on to this for so long? It's because, how good are they at shooting free throws? I mean, they are top 10 in the nation at that. It is very incredibly odd to find a team top 10 in the nation at free throws, but what is it, bottom 30 at three-point percentage? Sometimes those usually match up somewhat as far as pure shooting goes. Regardless, I'm ready to wave the towel on that. And here's the issues with being bad from three-point land. And it's not even, X's and O's from a schematic standpoint, like what you saw against USC on Saturday, right? Where they're actually taking guys off of individual ball handlers on Michigan State to drop someone in the paint. UCLA, we talked about this with our guy, Zach, of Locked on UCLA. He said Mick Cronin isn't going to stray away from anything that he usually does on defense. They weren't going to do that matchup zone, and they didn't. But that's just where the being bad from 3-point just gets very elementary. I mean, it's just the logic of it's hard to win games when you don't hit the most beneficial shot in the sport of basketball. They were 3 of 13 in the first half after starting 2 of 3. Woohoo! Now, here's the issue with the first half. This is why I pulled it out in the first half is God, Fiddler had such a really good second half, guys, so I feel a little bad roping him into this. But so 3 of 13 in the first half. That's, of course, when you went down into the locker room with a deficit. Of those 13 shots, 6 combined three-pointers came from guys shooting less than 20% from 3 on the season. Frankie Fiddler being one of them, Xavier Booker being the other. I get it. Shoot or shoot. Shoot yourself hot. One problem with that, though, I'm not sure either of those guys are shooters. I know that Xavier Booker was a 5-star McDonald's All-American. His stroke just looks good. Pause. But it looks fine. It's not like there's a hitch in there. But still, he came into this game 1 of 22 since the Oakland game. Since that game at Little Caesars Arena in December, 1 of 22. On his career, he's 27 of 104 in his career. We can't be taking 6 3-pointers from guys that just have proven with, at this point, a good enough sample size that can't hit it. I'm sorry. I know that someone's got to shoot out there, but how about you put Jace Richardson on the court a little longer? And I know that's a very untimely game to say that. That was not a good game from him, especially in the first half. But, man, if there's a solution out there, I don't know if it's either of those guys. And I know I'm going to get burned by at least 1 or 2 more games this season if Booker goes 2 of 3, 3 of 7. Those games will happen, but all in all, you saw the stat, or you read this, or oh God, if I can get my head straight, you listened to the stat I just rattled. 1 of 22 coming to this one, 27 of 104 in his career. So that's just one thing we learned. We got something else that we got to talk about too, and we're going to keep it with the tall guys here because this front court, yes, while they have grown, they have had some good moments so far this season. Maybe this is actually concerning. It wasn't just a one-off thing against USC. But first, you need to talk everyone's ears off about Gametime. Hey, you know what? If you want to go to Breslin Center, see this team get right. Hopefully, they win that one. And then, heaven forbid, if Mike Woodson's still the coach at Indiana, hopefully the Hoosiers come in looking for a beating. So Izzo can at home break Bob Knight's record? Find those tickets over at Gametime. This weekend, they are not cheap. I know that, guys, but they want to save you money with their flash deals, their last-minute ticket deals, because they are second to none. Now, the flash deals, let's say you're listening right now, a few days ahead of time, hey, great time to save. But let's say Saturday, you wake up, you have no plans, you want to walk into Breslin Center with no tickets. Well, no problem. As you're walking on Shaw, you could open up your phone, open up Gametime, find great last-minute ticket deals. And guys, they also want to save you money right off the bat, because when you head over to Gametime, download the app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, guys, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It's Gametime. All right, second concern that I'm going to have leaving this West Coast road trip. The first, you know what? Waving the white flag on three-point shooting, which is kind of stupid to say after 20 games of this nonsense. But, again, you've heard me talk about the shooting numbers that they have elsewhere and how it just befuddles me that from three is where it gets hairy. Anyway, I am concerned with the front court. They have taken strides from last year. That is just unequivocally true. It's also true that the bar was about 5,000 feet behind Earth's crust. It was not a high bar that they had to clear right now. So, yes, they are good. But the questions have been, and we had this conversation, actually, this is the other week with Greg Waddell, is like, what's going to be this team's Achilles? And it was floated around like, has the front court actually grown enough where they can be actually relied upon? And not just, not a total net negative like they were last year. And USC game was tough. Because from your three guys down low, Cooper, Zapal, and Kohler, that was 11 combined points. Not great, especially not great considering USC really didn't play a center all that often. So that kind of hurts that you couldn't just dump the ball low onto the low block. And that's one concern I had going into the season that I was laughed at for, is that Malik Hall leaving this team. Well, that's your most reliable low on the block score. Whenever you need 2 points, all right, just give it to Malik on that block. It seems apparently clear we don't really have that on the team. And I know like Jackson Kohler goes a little up and down. 8 points from him wasn't an atrocious game. But you just need a little more than, let me do the math right here. It was 16 points from the big men right here. And it wasn't a total dud completely from them. I actually thought Carson Cooper played solid defense given a very tough matchup. But just offensively, yeah, that's kind of where I just sit with the front court. It's like they have improved, but man, to take you to that next level of like a Big Ten contender, if you want to do anything in March, you're going to run into games where, you're going to need just easy points, especially in the first half when everyone outside of you isn't really getting anything going. And this is the issue with not having a low block score, right? Like just an automatic guy you could dump it down to, or a little hook shot. All right, bada boom, bada bing, we're all happy. I'm going to go to the first half, actually. I'm not even going to stay in the second half. I'm going to go in that first half because MSU goes up 15-8. And then this is the next sequence from Michigan State's shots. A Jace floater, a Booker missed 3, Jace missed a mid-range, Miss Fierce floater, Fiddler missed a 3, Kohler missed a 12-footer, Akins missed a mid-range, Fiddler missed a 3-pointer, and then finally Booker made a 3-pointer. Yes, woo! Okay, but the only problem was that UCLA also scored 10 points in that span, and the game was tied 18-18. So in that sequence, if you didn't have a legal pad and a pen out, like 2 missed floaters, 3 missed mid-range shots, and 3 3-point attempts by, again, guys that are shooting worse than 20% on the season. And not to just keep on shoveling dirt on these guys, but it didn't help that Cooper and Kohler combined for 6 turnovers too. Jeremy Fears as well, he had 3 turnovers. So, issues with the front court going forward. I'll say it again, just so I'm completely fair to everyone here, and we have been, very, very high in our praise when deserved and when we are seeing things worth praising. But will it be good enough? Will it be good enough moving forward? I got to say, I do see 2 matchups against Michigan with 2 7-footers, and I already start getting the heebie-jeebies about that one. So, yeah. God, that sucked. I saw a comment early on because, we are doing this live on YouTube. We're actually getting comments poured in like a slot machine right now. But early on, someone said, why didn't Izzo call a timeout before Kohler traveled? I'm going to back Izzo up here. Sure, I guess maybe for a split second if you could see some discomfort, I guess I should say, with Kohler. maybe you call a timeout, but I'm sure the last thing that Tom thought was going to happen was, with a new shot clock, the guy that just grabbed the rebound is going to travel within 4 seconds. Like, I don't, bury Izzo for not calling a timeout there. There's a few things that we can nitpick on, I guess, with him. Like, I don't know, quick rotations in the first half. Maybe that hurt with the rhythm, but I just don't know. We got a comment too. Am I missing something with Zapala? Only played 10 minutes. It was mentioned before the USC game that he was sick going into that game, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. He obviously took a hard fall, but also like Cooper's defense on the other end, that might have been your best matchup on that side at least. Zapala, he didn't do too bad when he was out there. I thought actually he was matched up against Bilodeau a few times, and very surprised about how laterally enough he was holding his own. Like, it's not like he put the absolute clamps on him, but for a tall guy, yeah. Okay, I was actually pleased with that. Let's talk about the Big Ten race here, because that's the storyline, not just from the micro of the game, but the macro of the season. The Big Ten title race. We'll start upbeat here. Yeah, I do have some optimism. That's right. I know some of you people just think I melt down all the time and just cry, which I will eventually. But let's do this right now. Like, the Big Ten race, is not over. It's not. I know it feels like it. I know that that's one of the games that, you gave away. And my God, if you flew home 1-1, it's a world different than 0-2 right now. But it is not over, because every team, nearly every team, has its warts. Look, neither of these losses that Michigan State just had are worse than any losses that other contenders have, except Wisconsin. Wisconsin is like in their own category there with not having bad losses. But like Purdue at home against Ohio State. Okay, like I think that's a worse loss than what Michigan State had. Michigan on the road at Minnesota. We saw what Michigan State did against them. We've seen the Gophers. Not a great team. Illinois, how about losing by 10 against USC? And not just in LA, but how about in Champaign, Illinois? Maryland, they dropped a game against Washington. And just like I said, Wisconsin, they actually have no bad losses, but they have 4 losses right now. Like, Michigan State's still sitting with 2. Now, it's not all rainbows and sunshine on the flight back to sunny East Lansing, but so this is the not upbeat category. But this is also reality, because this was bad. That's right. How about that for some hard-hitting analysis? Going 0-2 on a road trip, not good. So we're going to go over to Spartans Illustrated. They got a guy by the name of Paul Fanson. He goes by the name Dr. Green and White, and he tweeted this out early on Tuesday. It was a chart with, hey, what happens if Purdue loses, Michigan State wins? What are the Big Ten title odds there? Or let's say both teams lose. You get the point. We're only going to focus on one, the thing that happened. Michigan State loses, Purdue wins. What does that do? What does that do to the Big Ten title chase? Because, well, hey, if Michigan State won this game, they'd be both about a 50% chance, Purdue and Michigan State. But alas, here we are. That's not what happened. Purdue now has a 60% chance to win, roughly. Actually, it's a little over 60%. And Michigan State just a dip below 30% to win the Big Ten title. Now, that sucks, obviously, because Michigan State went into this road trip with, I believe, a 62% chance to win a share of the Big Ten title. The numbers on Bart Torvik haven't updated, but yeah, just don't take it from us sad Michigan State fans feeling like the world is ending. It's not ending, but you did take a sizable hit here. So Michigan State no longer in the driver's seat for the Big Ten title. They are in shotgun, though. They do have some irritating passengers behind them, so we will see if Purdue wants to stop at a rest area and take a whiz, and we can hop in that driver's seat. Because you know what? I will give you one more dose of optimism here. That Purdue game, which you only see them once, of course, like that is at home. Like, that's going to be your decider, potentially. Or, you know what, let's say Michigan State gets out of that game. Okay, there's still a lot of good games left on this schedule. They got to go to Illinois, face Michigan twice. But that Wisconsin game, well, that's also at home. So I don't feel like we got a great draw of the Big Ten schedule last year. But with where Michigan State's position in the Big Ten race and needing some wins here, yeah, I like having Purdue and Wisconsin at home. But we're going to flip it back to not upbeat here. We do have the hardest road left of any contender. Like, it was true. Like, we did start this Big Ten season with the easiest slate possible. That was proven to be true as Michigan State went into this road trip just beating one team with an above 500 record in conference play, and that was Illinois, who was trying their best to go below 500. But regardless, you have 3 games where you are underdogs left on the schedule: at Illinois, Michigan, and Maryland. those Wisconsin and Purdue games at home, going to be razor thin margins. And when I say we're underdogs, it's not FanDuel lines yet. That's over at barttorvik.com. They're projected numbers. Now, Purdue, okay, they're also underdogs in 3 games. Barely underdogs at Michigan. They will be underdogs against Michigan State most likely and against Illinois. However, the other 5 games, they're favored by 5+ points. So pretty decisive favorites. Michigan, well, yeah, they're favored in 8 of their last 10 games. Now, for them, it gets a little interesting because there are some games that they're favored in where they're only favored by a point or something. But yeah, it looks like a 2.5 horse race, Michigan State, Purdue. And I guess if you want to call Michigan the half horse, you can just based on how they've looked the last few weeks. But who are we to talk? Look at our last 2 games. God. Yeah, so that's where we're going to leave the Big Ten title race out. It was a big hit. But there is some season left. And you get the favorable draw against Purdue. Now, you got to get better at a few things. you got to tighten it up. But, yeah. Hey, who wants Michigan State football talk? Who wants some Michigan State football recruiting talk? That's right. From one upbeat topic of conversation to another. Let's talk. No, that's not nice. It's signing day. Actually, officially today, yeah, on February 5th, Wednesday, it is signing day again. Now, it's a little ridiculous because I think 90% of kids signed at the early signing period, but here we are. So you do – okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to get lost in my own notes here, guys. So I want to make everyone, on the same page right now about signing day. You do have until April 1st to sign at your college. Like, we're not going to get a flood of, whoever's left out there signing on this Wednesday. So, guys – can take their time. Now, there are 3 names that we're going to highlight right now. The first one, Emmanuel. Oh, my God. Here we go. The tough last name. I'm going to try my best, guys. Emmanuel Nuwewu. Okay. Now, he visited last weekend from Quebec, Canada. That's right. Football-rich Quebec, Canada. He plays at Vanier College in Montreal, the number 2 ranked kid in Quebec. The number 1 ranked kid in Quebec also plays at that same school, and he is going to Syracuse. Now, Mr. Nuwewu. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. Nuwewu. I practiced this like 10 times before recording, too. 3-star edge / outside linebacker, although at 6'4", 250 pounds, I would imagine this kid is a bona fide edge rusher, will play on the defensive line. He has offers from Akron, Boise State, Boston College, and right after visiting Michigan State last weekend, he gets an offer from North Carolina. That's right, Bill Belichick sneaking around in Montreal for Mr. Nuwewu. So he caught Michigan State's attention around last May at a Sound Mind, Sound Body camp at Wayne State. So we'll see what happens here. Michigan State was presumed to be the favorite coming out of the weekend, but we'll see if he does visit North Carolina, how serious that is, because, again, these guys have until April to sign somewhere. So stay tuned to that on signing day, because why not? If you want anything to actually look at for football, well, here it is right now. That's as good as it's going to get at this point in the offseason. The edge / linebacker class right now for 2025. For linebacker, Damari Malone, Charles White, Leonard Ayu. Although, just like we said, I don't think he's going to project as a linebacker. Cal Thrush is your only edge guy, standing at 6'4", 250 pounds. You also had Kike Burnett last year, but there's also been some young edge players brought in via the transfer portal. David Santiago, redshirt sophomore from Air Force, and then Anelu Lafayette, redshirt freshman from Wisconsin, former 4-star. 2 other names to keep your eye on, both from the same school, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Antonio Johnson, 6'4", 285-pound offensive lineman from St. Mary's. 3-star kid, number 74 ranked interior offensive line, and he is top 20 in the state of Michigan. Now he's going to be what is looking like the 4th kid from St. Mary's, Charles White, Jaden Savory, and then also Bryson Williams, who we'll talk about here in a hot second. But to round out the offensive lineman for this class, Drew Nichols out of California. Justin Bell, who's like 8'9", 400 pounds, like he is a mountain of a kid from Macomb, Dakota. Those are your other offensive linemen, but you also got to stack it with last year. Rustin Young, Rakeem Johnson, the Linyeski twins, Peyton Stewart, Andrew Dennis, who are going to count as a recruit. That's 9 linemen you have in the last 2 classes. That's depth. That's something Michigan State did not have at the offensive line position last year, as we all saw and all remember. So there we go. Keep your eyes peeled on Antonio Johnson, making it official on Wednesday. And also Bryson Williams. He was committed for the longest time. He was committed since the summer. Now early signing day rolls around, and he did not sign with Michigan State. And I think I even said, when a kid that is committed doesn't sign to the school on early signing day, I actually consider them uncommitted. Like, why not put pen to paper to make it official when you know that you want to be somewhere? But nevertheless, it seems like it was a quiet few weeks and nothing really has happened. So Bryson Williams, 6'2", 200-pound athlete, he also tweeted that he will be signing at 10 a.m. Now, when he tweeted that, he didn't specify what school, but one can presume Michigan State, unless we just had a world-famous Locked On Spartans jinx right there, and, something has happened behind the scenes that no one is aware of. Anyway, guys, he is the number 76 ranked running back in the 24/7 Sports Composite, but running back is a loose term. He is like a jack-of-all-trades kind of guy. He could also play receiver. He can return kicks, return punts. He can park cars for you in the South lot if you want him to. But, yeah, so that's going to be stacked with Jace Clarizio. Of course, that's the guy that Michigan State got flipped upon by Alabama and then flipped back from Alabama. That's going to be more of a pure running back. Now, let's say that he profiles as a receiver. He's added in with Braylon Collier out of Ohio, then Charles Taplin as well. So, for the team rankings, Michigan State goes into the signing day on Rivals, the 50th ranked team, 24/7 Sports, the 40th ranked team, and on On3, the 47th ranked team. You guys know my thoughts, or maybe you don't if this is one of the first shows you're listening to, but on Michigan State football recruiting, look, of course, there's going to be diamonds in the rough. Of course, I like personally some kids, and who cares what I think? What is really important is that the staff thinks highly of these kids, even though they're ranked in the 50s or the 40s. But fact of the matter is, every staff likes their class. Every coaching staff trusts what they evaluate. So I don't think it's a sustainable way. It has to get better next year. There's no good way to say it without sounding like I'm just dogging on a bunch of high school kids right now. But yeah, we know the circumstances too around it. I'm not going to go through all that again, but this staff is still trying to make inroads regionally throughout the Midwest, and Michigan State themselves, they could use a better branding and profile too after not going to a bowl game the last 3 straight years, 2 before Jonathan Smith even came here. But it just has to get better than this. So we'll keep it at that. Congratulations to everyone that signs at Michigan State. Glad to have you. You will be the diamonds in the rough of this class, I'm sure of it. But yeah, guys, that's it's an upbeat end to an upbeat episode of Locked On Spartans here. God, that game absolutely sucked. I almost liked it when they were down 10 a little more. I just no hope. No hope in my body. So there we go. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll just leave you guys just to argue in the comments over there, I suppose. Left Bruin, maybe Izzo should hang his hat on one natty 30 years and just retire. I can't name anything UCLA has done in the last 30 years. Congrats on today's game, genuinely. To all the UCLA fans that are serious, congrats. That was good. All right, I'm going to go stare at a ceiling for 6 hours now. See you guys. Go green.